Hare Krishna, everyone. This presentation will be a critical and satirical, comical one about the modern view of how everything came about and what's behind everything. I'm a layperson. I want to make this clear right from the beginning. I'm not a scientist or philosopher, not trained in an academic way. So in one sense, I'm not 100% entitled to speak on these topics authoritatively. So I don't have this claim that this is an authoritative and factual presentation. It's my opinion and my view of things, which I took also from more professional people, but is my presentation of it. So I don't claim here the absolute truth, except for those parts which are from the Vedic scriptures, which are Shastra, which I accept as truth. But the other things are a kind of an overview and a satirical, at times satirical, and scientific to some degree presentation of some certain topics. So on this picture we see, let's start now. On this picture we see a person standing and watching the skies. So as thinking human beings, we wonder in when we perceive this world around us, what is all that, and we should think what's behind it all. Some would say there's nothing behind it all, this is all there is, but there's some intuition that there might be something to it and might be something behind it, and that it has something to do with the purpose of existence, to find out what that is, so that what is behind it all has also an meaning, or has some relevance also for our life. So the subtitle to my little presentation is then also, why is there something rather than nothing? Wouldn't it be, if there would nothing be behind, that there's also nothing in front? How can such an amazing world, it's hard to negate that the world is amazing in all its aspects actually, how can such an thing as the universe, the world and the living universe come about? And isn't that kind of the proof for something behind it? So we watch the skies, we watch the spheres, and it's an amazing presentation. The universe consists of so many different parts, units, and they are harmonically or in a harmony with each other. They are working with each other. They complement each other in order to work, also to make the universe a whole functioning entity. So how is this all possible? Of course, we learn nowadays, we have a certain version, an explanation how everything came about, and this is also sold to us as science. So this should give the whole thing a very authoritative and trustworthy, remuneration? What's the word? Appearance. Don't doubt that it's a fact, so to say. Very intelligent people are researching in this direction and found out that it's like that. So how it is and how it's hard that it is like that, we will discuss in this next minutes. So this is the title of this next part: Impossibility of an Evolutionary Explanation. This is the base idea that in all the development of the universe to its momentary status, to the status quo, it came about by an evolutionary process, meaning it came from a more simple. From the simple comes the complex. This is the evolutionary development. From the simple comes the complex. And it all starts from this so-called singularity, which was supposed to be 13.8 billion years, some 13.7 billion, but this is now what they think. This is kind of the established understanding. There was a singularity, which means all there is was condensed to one small point, very small, and there was the whole reality inside, so to say, undifferentiated, unmanifest. So the mass and energy, or let's say energy, because energy creates then the mass, was there inside. All the energy was in this singularity, and around this singularity nobody knows what there was. Some say there was nothing, some say it was a quantum fluctuation, a quantum field out of which the singularity came. Nobody knows what was there, but there was no mass, time, energy, things which are inside the universe. Outside the universe there are different there's a different world. It's not a world, maybe nothingness or whatever it is, nobody knows. But anyway, 13.8 billion years ago, this singularity changed its nature and exploded. It expanded. Nobody knows why, it just happened, and out of this, where all this mass or energy was condensed, it exploded, expanded, and this is what we call the Big Bang. And for the first moments of this expansion, there was total chaos. All the energy expanded, the space expanded into nothingness, or whatever, what is beyond the universe, right? Into the nothingness. And what does it expand? What was the impetus that it expanded? Why was it not lying around for all eternity in its condensed way? So nobody knows, but that's what they believe. And you have this total chaos, and after 800 million years, so 13 billion years ago, the cosmos formed. So out of this explosion and chaotic state of being, the cosmos came. Cosmos, in German also Kosmos, the same word, means, it comes from Greek and means Ordnung or order. So there it is implied that you have an order of the universe. And suddenly you have from this nothingness or the singularity to the chaos an order, which consists of the matter with its elements. Everything is made of the elements, so you have the atoms, and they're all quite structured, and out of this you have then the stars, and so this you have the planets and all that, and everything is structured, everything is in order, and everything is guided by the most amazing laws of nature, and nobody knows where they come from and why they act, how they act, and they act very defined, in a very defined way on the matter. The laws of nature work in a very defined way on matter, so which it is possible that matter is and gives the opportunity for so many existences in this universe. So from this chaos you have the order. Ordo ab chaos is a Latin statement. Order out of chaos. And this is already a very, very weird thing, because out of this you get the matter, you get the energy, you get time, and all this gets structured. So you have out of this chaos, of this whatever it was, and in the singularity there's just this energy, everything gets defined, and time suddenly starts to exist. Where is this coming from, and why does it work on matter also? But all this requires, in order that it's defined, that it has some shape, and that it has some function, and that it has some order, it needs these laws of nature. So they're in one sense behind this everything. Without the laws of nature which work on the matter, you wouldn't have the defined matter. Atoms wouldn't be able to consistently be manifested. Either they would flow away, how to say, or its parts would expand, and matter could not be manifested, or they would implode if the laws of nature working in the atom, which everything consists of, would not be stable. The atoms wouldn't be stable without these laws of nature, and it needs a very precise balance inside the matter or inside the atom in order that it stays. So this is very peculiar, because this all needs an extremely defined and exact organization, exact order that it works how it works. And the chances that out of a complete chaos, explosion chaos, comes such an order in this 800 million years by kind of itself without any guidance is very hard to understand, very hard to define. So that what I will explain now, all these development, steps of development in this world, in this universe, I would say an evolutionary possibility is there. I don't have per se something against an evolutionary development, even though I don't believe in it because of my spiritual background. I have a different point of view. But my point is not so much how everything came about. My point is more, and this will be clear, is that it can only come about by a guiding principle. By a guiding principle, something which is kind of above the thing and defines it and orders it and structures it, and through the information makes the world possible. And without such an element, without such a factor, it's very hard to understand how anything is possible at all. So my criticism is not so much on the evolutionary account or evolutionary possibility of the existence of the world, more of the that there's not this element of guidance. Yeah, let's say like this. So here also we say how can come from the chaos the thing, the reality, the matter and all that, without some entity or principle structuring it. And in one sense we have a principle here in form of these laws of nature, which define the things. Good, so here already this unguided evolution or development is questioned by me, and not just by me, but probably many people. But in my lay language I can only formulate it like that. So we see that from the singularity, from the chaos, we have this cosmos, and I call these steps now, this intermediate steps of the development of the universe, bang. Because I want to make the point clear that this is, in one sense, they say, oh, so many years, you have 800 million years, it was a slow process from the chaos to the order, but I would say it's more, looks like an bang, means an sudden manifestation, sudden change of the state of existence, of the state of being. So this is what I mean with a bang. As you had a big bang in the beginning, there was a bang. That means from in a very short time, like in a moment, you have an extreme change of the reality, extreme change of the situation. So also here, I would not say it's a slow process from the chaos to the order. Maybe if it was even small steps in 800,000 years, I would say this time would not be enough to create the cosmos. So anyway, it seems more to be a sudden manifestation, or let's say like this, and bang. So the cosmic bang, which is hard to explain that such a big step or change in reality can come about. But this is not enough. Maybe we say it's slowly happened, that the matter formed, atoms formed, stars and planets formed. So we have now the structured universe, but we don't have the life in it. So then we say that, and they say, or scientists or whatever, the academies where it's taught in universities, they have this conviction that after then almost 10 billion years, you have the next huge change in the universe. And this is the biological bang, because this is a big change. Maybe the time is long and you think it was a step-by-step process, but it's a big change in the nature of the things. Because now life developed out of the non-life. From the inorganic matter you get the organic matter. So how is this possible? How can non-organic matter produce organic matter? And the process is called it's very hard for me, I'm not an English speaker. In German it's easy to say abiogenese, but in English abiogenes or something like this. So A means the negation, bio means the life, so non-life, and genese, genesis or genes, the existence or the coming about, how to say in English, So it's that everything comes about not through life, it comes through non-life. So matter creates life, the anorganic matter creates organic matter. So abiogenesis is the formation of organic matter from anorganic matter. And what's the process? Through chemical evolution. That means everything is you can reduce to. So this development or the life comes from non-life, and to explain that is very hard, I would say, and very unintuitive. Where do we see in the world that non-life creates life? Where do we see that? It's always a living entity, a living being creates another living being. That matter cannot produce life, and even after millions and billions of years. How is it possible that atoms just fall together? And we will see what is the explanation. Because the smallest part of life are the cells, or let's say like this, the cells are like elementary, they are crucial that life comes about. But one cell is very, very complicated. What's going on in the cell is a huge process, a huge mechanic, a huge, one cell is more complicated than any city in the world. So much is going on inside this. So in order and so that the body works, or that the living entity comes about, it needs this cell where there's the DNA and all that. And this all falls together more or less by accident is very, very hard to believe. And even though they might say it in another way, but it boils down to it is an accident. It just matter fell together. Some elements fell together after millions and billions of years by accident and produced such a complicated mechanism as the cell, and through this then the life. It's very hard to believe, and they want us to believe that, and this is just brainwashing in my eyes. So, and if it would be possible, and we have so much knowledge now how the body works, how life works, how the cell works, why don't they create life then? Now they say it's a proof, and it's a fact, and life came about from non-life, but there is no proof to it, and I will show you what is the main proof. Maybe there are other ones too, but this is like one of the famous ones. So, but if it's so obvious, or let's say like this, it should be only stated as proof if they can do it. If scientists can do it, just create life, even a small, egg or some ant or some blade of grass, but not even that they can do. So what is this famous proof? It's called the Miller-Urey experiment from 1953, where these two scientists, Miller and Urey, they reproduced the atmosphere of the ancient world, and made this experiment where in these glasses and all that, they created this atmosphere and put the certain elements inside, and then it had some electrical impulse, which they think this is what happened, through which it kind of everything worked a bit to kind of kickstart the thing, and then some elements formed, but I show you this here better. So this should be the ancient atmosphere, just some symbol picture, and in this you have the hydrogen, and you have the oxygen, and there is methane and ammoniac. Oh, I got this. I hope I got this right. And then after so this was lying there for a long time, and then after some time there was a flash of light, some electrical impulse, and through this this is what they made in the experiment, right? This was the thing. Then through this came amino acid. This is still the German writing here. So they got this amino acid, and they think this is the proof. This is what they did in their experiment inside these glasses. They produced amino acid, and amino acids are the small parts out of which a protein is built inside the cell, and which is proteins are necessary that the whole body is, these are the building blocks, so to say, of the body. And but the point is that in their experiment, it was an hypothetical atmosphere, so they assumed it was like this. How can they know that this, I don't know, what was it, 3 billion years ago, the atmosphere was like that? Complete speculation. Then actually it said it couldn't work in nature. That's what they created inside the laboratory. In nature, it wouldn't have worked out because these elements, they would evaporate or this and that. So that this is a stable situation, what they create here, is very unlikely, and nobody really knows. There are also huge speculation. And in fact, they produced only amino acids. That's all. And amino acids, some amino acids are like incredibly far away from a living organism. So to say in their experiment they prove that life can exist, can come about by matter, is a huge assumption, and it's so ridiculous that this is taught in school and is in the textbooks, and this should be the proof. It's just ridiculous. So the result of a highly improbable self-organization of matter, right? This is an highly improbable self-organization of matter, that this matter lies around these elements, and then some self-organization by itself creates DNA. This doesn't fit together. The DNA is this super complicated information storage. Actually, it's a chemical information storage. We know how it looks. It has this double helix, and inside you have this cytosine, guanine, adenine, and thymine, and they are like a binary code inside the DNA, where there's the information stored how your body works, how a body works. And for what is this information? It needs to know, or the information is how the body works. What are the different parts of the body, how they are structured, and if something is damaged in your body, then there's a highly complicated process, which I show here, that there's and machine. This is all consisting of mini machines, like microscopic machines or nano machines, which are working there. You have this double helix of the DNA, and there's one machine going inside, and it separates these two strands. You can see this blue triangle which goes inside. It separates these two, the double helix, splits it up, and then another machine, this DNA primase, is going inside, and it copies the information. It's very important to understand. It just copies the information. These are not the amino acids or proteins. It's just the information how the protein is built. And how is it built? Of a strand of amino acids. The amino acids, there are 20, and they're like letters, and they have to be organized in a certain way that they make sense. So where is this information coming from? Where's the guidance coming from? How the amino acids are connected. This comes from the DNA. So this machine goes inside. One machine separates the DNA strand, like opens the book. Another one looks at the certain part, what is needed. This is called a gene. A gene is a certain part of the DNA which has a certain information about this and that, what is needed. Like if you need to grow more hair, and then there's this machine going to that part of your DNA which has the information how to build the hair. How is the hair built? Because of chemicals, right? So it needs to know how is it done. So it goes to this part, exactly that part, copies the information, and this copy is called RNA. The RNA is the copy of the DNA, and it takes then out this strand of copy of this RNA strand, goes out, and it goes into another machine where this is called the ribosome, where this information, this strand of RNA, is translated into the actual amino acids. So it goes inside this machine. The machine looks at the certain parts, says, here's the information, this and this and this amino acid is needed. And then other small machines bring in the amino acids which fit to this information, the translation process, and they combine each and every amino acid which is right now there described. And out of the ribosome comes the strand of the actual amino acids. It's a long strand of these different amino acids. As I said, there are 20 different ones working the body. So you have the whole strand, and then this whole strand gets formed in another machine into the actual protein, and this is transported out of the DNA and brought to the part of the body where it's needed. And it's said this process goes on in extreme high speed. Every second this is happening in all our cells, and there are videos also on YouTube. You can see how amazing this is. These are just some pictures I took from the internet. If you want to know more about this extremely amazing process, look it up, go online, go on YouTube. There are many wonderful videos which show us this amazing process, and actually many people who see this for the first time are amazed. How is this possible that this goes on in my body, and how is this possible that this came about by accident? And there are people who got converted by this through a more theistic point of view, because they say without a guiding principle I can hardly imagine that this comes about. And I would say also this is this teleological argument of the existence of God. When we observe the world and we see so much purpose and so much functionality in it, in such a precision, and that is hard to assume that this comes about without a guiding principle from above, so to say, someone who gives the definition. So this is not taken into account in the evolutionary account. So this is the development from the DNA, the protein, and then the cell. All is built through this. And then first, there is the DNA. The DNA is the information. Without the information, the life is not possible. So, but how can DNA exist by itself? If this is in the beginning, and there's only DNA, how can DNA work? Because DNA is actually the information storage. So how are the machines built which are enveloping the DNA? Right? This is kind of the question of what was before, the egg or the hen. So no cell without a protein, and no protein without DNA. You cannot have a cell without a protein, because the proteins are the building blocks. And you can have no protein without the DNA. So this is a big problem for the evolutionary picture. So we go back to our little picture here. So after the biological bang, which is also a huge development in the existence in the world, which is very sudden and a big shift in the nature of reality, big shift in the nature of the world. Suddenly you have life, such amazing thing as life. And now we come to the next, which was 300,000 years ago. We call this the anthropologic bang. So out of life, out of simple life, let's say animal life, which is not that simple anymore, you have suddenly humans. So from simple life to highly complex life, especially human life, this is a big bang, anthropologic bang. So when we go back into the evolution of the man, we see where we're coming from, and all that happened by accident, by chance, by whatever factors this might have been, but the outcome is amazing. How can this simply come about? And in the beginning of all that stands this simple cell, or the one cell living entity, which thought after a long time swimming around in this soup, this is not enough for me, I want to be more, and I want to be a thinking person, I want to create empires and this and that. Yeah, what was the factor? Of course they say it's the natural evolution, and it's the survival of the fittest and all this, but these are just excuses, because the steps which are necessary from the simple to the complex have to be so defined, and they are so essential, and there are no proofs for this, there are no evidence, there are no fossil records which show this development. We have always the missing link. What is really the proof that we come from simple life, or the monkeys, or the apes and all that? There is no proof in the fossil record, as much as they want to sell us that this is all speculation. You can look this up in many books and videos and from other scientists which show us the cheating and manipulation what is going on there. Then there are findings actually of ancient modern man and findings which contradict their assumption. One important example is the Cambrian explosion. The Cambrium, this is a certain geological stratum, a couple of million years ago, old, and in which you have, which they found a big variety of living entities, fossilized living entities, and which have no proof, or where there's no indication that they have that they came about by evolution, because in the strata before that and also after that there's not this big variety. So this was many million years ago. There was a time when many different living creatures lived on this earth, and they came kind of out of nothing, and then they left also not much traces, and there's not much they're not like the forefathers of many other living beings. So this Cambrian explosion, I just give you this name here if you want to know more. There are many information, of course, online. You can read yourself into that. But interesting that Charles Darwin, the father of the evolutionary theory himself, knew about this Cambrian explosion, and he saw this a big problem for him or his thesis. And so he said the case must be at present remain inexplicable and may be truly urged as invalid argument against the views here entertained. This is what he says about the Cambrian explosion. He said more about it, but this is one of the more strong statements, where he says, actually, this does not fit into my theory of evolution, and if this really is true, then my views are... This is a strong argument against my views. I cannot explain it. Yes, here just the German translation. So the Cambrian explosion is a big proof, actually, against the evolutionary theory. Then they found man-made artifacts, and of course I give you just a couple of examples. There are so many online in books and this and that, like mysteries of archaeology and all that, but like this thing here they found in China, it's millions of years old. I don't know if the picture, if it's clear enough. It's kind of some conic form in the stone, which means it's very old. This always is measured according to the substance, the material where it's inside. This is very old and looks man-made. And what they only do in such situations, they say, oh, it's naturally formed, it's not man-made. And here from Russia, they said it's 300 million years old. There's kind of a screw inside. Very hard to see how this can form naturally. Or this here, it's found in Klerksdorp. Oops, I jumped over it. Go back. Klerksdorp in South Africa, and 3 billion years old. Sorry, this is the German MRD. It means Milliarde. In English is then billion. So it's 3 billion years old, and they found many of these actually. It's not only one, and it looks man-made. It's round. It has I don't know what's the material, and this ring-shaped Einkerbungen, marks inside. Look man-made, but of course it cannot be, because that would mean some intelligent life. That nobody knows what it is actually. But the explanation is, this is the scientific explanation. This happened by natural forces, because it was lying there under the earth many million years. So somehow the matter around it worked itself through that it formed like this. And the point is, there are many like this. They found many of these things. And that all the time it happened that these parallel lines got created around this spherical object. Hard to explain, but because it cannot be intelligent life, because it's not possible that such a long time ago there was intelligent life, so they can only say it's natural. There are only these two explanations: natural or man-made. And man-made means intelligent life. Some intelligence was working there. And these are just some 2-3 things they found. There are so many which but these things are suppressed or differently interpreted, because it's not that the theory has to be, or let's say like this, they they form the evidence according to the theory. But actually it should be that the theory is formed according to the evidence. Normally you have an evidence, you find some physical object or whatever, and then according to this you have a theory how this came about and all that. So if they have a theory of this evolution and all that, and they have already worked it out when was what, and if they find something what does not fit inside their theory, even as a hard proof, it cannot be like this, and they change the object in that sense. They change this hard evidence. So this is going on in the science, so-called science cheating thing. So there are no evidence. Oh, now I see here, I forgot to translate this. Keine Beweise means no evidence. So man-made artifacts, and then also cities and buildings and structures they found which are extremely old or built in a way which is hard to explain how it can have been built. Like this here is found in Austria. It's around 20,000 years old, I guess even a little bit older. And the interesting thing is all this canals or this structures in the earth in hard stone. I don't know now which stone this is, but it's extremely hard, and it's perfectly symmetric for many hundreds of meters. And they found out that it is worked. It must have been worked with a very modern, or not so modern, but a highly technological machine or instruments or tools. Because of course on this picture you cannot see, online you find a movie about this also if you want to see, because it has this, so my English is not technical enough to explain this now, but it has this rippings, or so to say, or marks, how it was chiseled out from the stone. The stone was chiseled, and inside these marks, which are also almost parallel, there are in German said Verglasung. It means it gets glassed like this. If there's a high temperature on stone, it transforms into glass. And they say that this happened 20,000 years ago. This is not possible because you need modern, very high technological machines which can work so strong and so fast that an glassing of the stone would happen. So this is a big mystery, and so for me it's not a mystery, because from my point of view, from my worldview, also through the Vedic knowledge, I know that we were not stupid monkeys thousands and millions of years ago, but that actually intelligent life exists since almost time immemorial, and that the human civilization goes through changes, either up or down from the technological point of view. And there were times when humans had higher technological possibilities and higher possibilities in general, and there were ancient civilizations which knew more, which were more capable of many things. But this does not, of course, fit into our worldview, and so it's negated. Okay, now Google jumps on. Sorry for this interruption. I turn it off. Good, we continue. As I said, ancient civilizations, of course, there you can read and see so much. I just give a couple of examples. If you want to go into detail, no problem, online, YouTube, and you find so many amazing things. Of course, you find also many speculations. Nowadays, it's not so easy, of course. Hard to believe this or that side, because there's so much speculation on both sides going on. So we have to be always very sure what to really accept and to believe, and what is actually the base of our faith. And there's lots of speculation, of course, on the seemingly not so scientific side going on, and esoterics times is extremely speculative and easy believing. But this picture, as I show you, was a scientist who researched that, and he found this out with this glassing of the stone, all that. So this seems to be for me more a reliable example of a contradiction of evolutionary theory and evolutionary thought. Here's also another example from Japan, and of course what they say, what can that be? It's of course not a man-made structure, it's not an ancient city which is now underwater, which means it's very old, 10,000 years they say, where there couldn't have been any such high civilization who could build that. And this is made by nature, because of the sea going back and forth after thousands of years, it formed like that. So, as I said, if it doesn't fit, they have to just, give such an explanation. So cities and buildings, and in the end I want to explain on this point, there's the macroevolution versus the microevolution. Now about the coming about of the development of the living entities. It's very important that we distinguish between macroevolution and microevolution. Macroevolution would mean that one species comes out of another one. Yeah, so like on this picture you see from the simple, you have these water animals and this fish, and then you have the reptiles, and there's then the mammals, and then the humans and all that. So this means macroevolution, and this is highly doubted. But microevolution, because then always is the example is given. Microevolution can have happened because you see, you breed some cats and then you get a bigger cat or dog, so you can breed some plants and all that. Yeah, that's true, but this is microevolution. Microevolution is an obvious fact, it's science, it happens. But macroevolution is never proven, there's just an assumption. And that we think because of microevolution, small changes inside a species is the proof that species can change to complete another species. It's just stupid. You cannot breed, you can breed as much as you like, you can breed a rat as long as you like, you will not get out of it a chameleon, a snake or something. You cannot breed like that. And actually it's also known, when you make two extreme breedings, you go far away from the natural and you get mutations, which are detrimental actually for the living being, for this animal or for this being. So if it's said that through the evolution you always go into the better direction, it's get better, it's actually not proven by science either. So we see we have this huge changes, shifts in this universe, which are not to explain, from the singularity to the chaos which came out of it, to the cosmic, to the cosmos, to the order, the structure, the natural laws and all that. Then from this non-living reality you get the life, and then from the life, simple life or life at all, you get higher developed and human life. To explain all that without guidance, someone doing that just happened by accident, is hard to believe. And people believe it because they want to negate the metaphysical option, but so they are stuck with a very crooked philosophy understanding. And then in the end I want to speak on the next step, because we have only now living beings. We might have more higher developed living beings like humans, but what is amazing is now this step, the psychological bang, the psychological development, so that we develop a psyche and thinking capabilities and all that. So this is more the subtle aspect of a being, especially of a human. So how can this come about when it was not there before? So that would mean you have a very unintelligent, simple human who only thinks about eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Survival for him is all there is. And from this you get through some years, because he doesn't want to be stupid anymore. What you get, the high civilization, the thinker, the human who has understanding of the cosmos, of the order, of math and all that. How can this come? How can this come? Why does it actually have to come? If it's only the important thing to survive, what is the need for high civilization and culture and thinking, actually, if it's only about eating, sleeping, mating, defending? We as humans have an urge for so many things which are not necessary for survival, like art and things like the aesthetic. So in this psychological bang or psychological development, you have this self-consciousness, the sense for being, for existing, that I'm aware of my existence. We have higher intelligence. We have rich emotions, right? We have a big spectrum of different emotions and experience of feelings and all that. We have imagination and fantasy. We can dream, we can speculate, we can think, we can imagine so many things, and the arts go into this and literature goes into this. It's a very important part of human existence, to imagine things, to have fantasy and all this, to be very active on this mental plane. We have a moral sense and empathy. This simple living entities don't have, and they don't need. What is actually the need for survival of moral sense? Empathy actually is often detrimental to my survival. There are people who sacrifice themselves for others. So if the highest or the maximum or the principle of existence is the survival of the fittest and the survival of myself, how can moral be of any good in such a situation, such a life? I say there's more to life than this. We have a soul. There's a soul inside which has a sense for feeling, for love, and through this there's a sacrifice and all that. This is much better explained through metaphysical factors. Then language. How can this cave guy, with his noise he makes for communication, because there might have been communication, develop language? Language is so sophisticated, so complex. It needs so much to work it, to make it and to use it and all that. And this comes from the simple sounds comes the grammar and all that. It's ridiculous. And interesting, if it would be like this, then the ancient languages must have been much simpler than the modern, but we don't see that. We see the ancient languages like Sanskrit or Latin or Greek or other languages are more complicated, more complex than the modern languages. Language doesn't get more refined actually. There's a degradation of language, which is not proving the evolution that it gets better. And then of course we have writing, and we have the art, and we have the literature and philosophy. So this is a human being actually, a very refined being, a very conscious being, a very subtle being, and completely different than to the animal in that sense. The animal is very crude and gross. So this we call here the psychological bang, from sudden, the non-intelligent and non-psychological developed human comes this refined being. So we go back to our graphic. Singularity produces the cosmic bang out of the blue, and so this comes the biological development. Life comes about, and from the simple life, the more complex life, and then also the thinking or the subtle life, the refined life. And this happened. Why? Just like that. This is the explanation. It happened just like that. There's no real explanation to it. And this is hard to explain how this happened without a guidance. This is my main point. Without guidance, this is actually not possible. It's not possible. Because every of these steps, and these are the major steps, you have many steps in between, all of them need huge chance, huge good luck that this can happen. Just an atom forming out of the chaos is hard to understand. A cell forming out of a huge pile of chemicals, how then this can happen? And from the cell, then and all that. Anyways, I explained it. It's if you think about it, it's ridiculous what they want to sell us. Yeah. So in this singularity, you had the cosmos, you had inside the order, the structure, the potential for life, and all that. So everything was in one sense undifferentiated inside this singularity. So we wonder, what kind of singularity is that actually? What kind of cause is all that really? So we go now into the, what would I say, not I, but the Vedic scriptures, my tradition would say to that. Because on that point we really wonder, what magical thing is this singularity actually? And here in Sanskrit we have this saying, palena palakaranam anumiyate. And this means to conclude the cause through the effect. That means you can see in the effect, and the effect is now not in cosmic soup or just simple life. We have a very complex life, and we have humans with huge capabilities. So if we take the status quo now and want to understand through this the cause, then this is possible. This is what is said here, that you can understand through the effect what is actually the cause. Like if you see a painting, then you can conclude there is a painter, and you might understand something about the painter through the painting. You can give some interpretation. Might not know everything, of course, but something you can know. At least there's a painter. So when we see this world now, how it is now, how it supposedly was, and give some convoluted, weird explanations how everything came about. Yeah, if you take the status quo, how the world is right now, then it's more likely that there is something higher, some guiding principle, something with meaning, that the cause is something very, very noble, actually. Noble, refined, and auspicious. And not just some nothingness or quantum fluctuation or some field or whatever. There's way more to life than just principles, because that what is alive experiences itself as an being, existent being. So in the other statement here of the Vedic scriptures, Satkarya Vad, that all the effect is also in the cause. So you can conclude from the effect to the cause, and actually in the beginning everything was already in the cause. In one sense, we can go further, the cause and the effect are the same, or that what you see in the effect is also in the cause. So when the effect, that what we see now, and the center of this effect is, of course, they would say no, it's not, but is our experience, then we can understand that the cause has also an experience, and experience is only made by an entity and conscious being. So what guides this development? So I want to speak on what guides the development of the matter, and these are the laws of nature. In the beginning I mentioned it, and this is also very interesting, that these laws of nature, they work on the physical. That what I explain now, this is by Erwin Schrödinger. He's a scientist, and he has a small video online where he speaks on this shortly. So that the laws of nature are not physical, they are the effect the physical, because they are the laws, right? They're the principles, how nature works, how the physical works. They give the guidelines. So the effect the physical, they create the physical from nothing, because he says actually that before the Big Bang happened, these laws of nature were already there, because they give the definition how the matter gets then formed. And it's not that the matter can create its laws which define it, right? It would be if you pull yourself out of the water by your hair, meaning they must have been there before, and they give the definition of the matter. They say how the atoms are formed and stars are formed and all this. So it's not that you have the matter, the explosion of the chaos, and all this energy produces its own laws, and this work then on the energy, and through this the matter is created, because we know the matter is actually energy. In one sense you can say the energy is the undefined matter, the potentiality for the defined matter, how matter looks like, the atoms, how they look and how everything is formed, right, is energy. So that would mean you have the Big Bang, singularity, then the Big Bang, you have the chaos, you have all this undefined energy, and this produces then somehow or other laws of nature, right? These are in that sense metaphysical. It produces its own principles, how it wants to be formed, and then these laws of nature work on the energy, and then comes the rest. So he says no, they were there, they create the physical from nothing, meaning they influence before, right? They are something different, they are a different category of things. So I show this here also, the physical comes. They create the physical from nothing. Or they create the physical from nothing means that before the Big Bang there was like nothing. It was not matter. Matter got created through the Big Bang, right? And they exist before the physical, right? As we said already. So they're very interesting, these laws of nature. And then he says in this video, and I also see like this, that this is the definition, he says, of the biblical God. He seems to not know about the Vedic God, because the Vedic God has the same definition. Krsna in Bhagavad Gita says the same. He is not physical. He creates the matter. He affects the physical. He creates from nothing, meaning nothing is the spiritual. Nothing is not complete nothingness, but it's not non-matter. So everything gets created out of him, and he is not material. So in that sense, he is not nothing, right? From the material point of view, nothing. And he can create, he has the potential, the power, and he existed before, of course. So the laws of nature, in that sense, the mind of God. They are the mind of God. This is the will of God. How the world is, the world is willed by the laws of nature. So what kind of mysterious cause could that be? What can do such an amazing thing? So the cause must correspond to the effect. I explained this before. The cause must correspond to the effect. There must be a connection. There must be a similarity, so to say. There must be a relationship. It cannot be a categorically different thing. This is actually, the effect is an emanation of the cause. It can only exist because of the cause. And it is, in sense, the cause. So if everything there is in this cause, I want to give now different options what the cause can be. What can be the beginning? So either it's a nothingness, they say, it's like nothing, and it's very hard to understand how really nothing, and nothing as it's meant, can produce something. Where's the relationship? So I say this is also hard to accept. It can be something abstract, like this quantum field, something which is completely undefined, cannot be defined from us, or something completely abstract, non-defined. And then I also asked, what is then the relationship between the world we see and its cause? If it's abstract, the world is not abstract, the world is defined. And if the world is defined and the cause should be, or let's say the effect is a reflection of the cause, then the cause must be defined too and cannot be abstract. Then there are some philosophies which say the cause is some impersonal energy, which means there is then no guidance, no person, means there's no will and all that. I will speak later on this. So it's very hard to understand how an impersonal energy, which is static, impersonal energy is static, there's nothing going on, makes such an dynamic process. What is the impetus? So I cannot go into all the details now, but I just give this causes and mean this cannot be the explanation. And in the end, of course, there's a person. Some say it's a person, and I mean it also. There's a person. The Vedic scriptures say also the cause is a person. It can only be a person, and this I want to show in these 4 possible causes. And nothing, the abstract, impersonal energy, or person. The person is the most plausible. The whole presentation I gave so far is the explanation if the cause would be a nothing and abstract or maybe impersonal thing, right? And this will not explain the world. But a person explains the world the best. So how can a person be now the cause of everything? This is, of course, not it's a thing which has to be analyzed, understood, because the other causes are quite unplausible. So how is a person plausible? Because we understand a person according to our standard of person, and from this point of view it's definitely hard to understand how the cause of everything and the thing what is behind everything and creates everything and is maintaining everything be a person, if we understand persons according to our personality. So we have to understand person, this is then a different person, different entity. It's more like an entity with personality and not a human. So this is now not a philosophical argument, but a kind of a thought chain. So at first we have a biophile universe, biophiles universum, biophile universe, meaning the universe is geared towards life. We see, as we spoke about all these factors which are necessary for life in this universe, it's very precise, it's very, the universe, the outcome of the whole manifestation is life. So the universe likes life, accommodates life. And I would say this is the high point of the development of the universe, is life. It's geared towards life. And life means it's a consciousness. Consciousness is the central aspect of life. Meaning that there is something or one alive and is also conscious about his existence, his life. This means it's an subject and self-conscious subject. And of consciousness makes experience possible. So this is in that sense the point or the purpose of consciousness, that we have an experience. We have an experience then inside this body, in this reality, with our senses. And so when the universe means it's a playground, so to say, for this conscious experience of the individual. It's a playground for persons, that they can have all kinds of experiences according to their will, according to their desire. And consciousness and this experience can only be made and had by persons. So this is like a package. I would say, from the assumption that the universe accommodates life, and the purpose of the universe in that sense is life. And what life means, it means then, or this refers then in the end to a person. So according to that, what I said before, that the effect reflects the cause. And if the effect is a person, so to say, or the conscious experience of a person or person itself, a personal existence, then also the cause must be a person. This is kind of my argument. I don't know if it's in a philosophical way presented, but it's kind of my thought chain of giving some hint towards a personal cause. So the strong entropic principle hints towards intention. The entropic principle means that everything is geared toward life, and someone geared it, and there's the different interpretations of the entropic principle. So one is that someone thought about the whole thing. The whole universe is the idea of a being which brought this about. There's some plan behind it, some intelligence behind it. And the weak entropic principle or interpretation of it means it's just by accident, and there are many tries, maybe in a multiverse theory, and after these many tries we come out with the combination which can bring about life. So, but the strong entropic principle definition, if we take that, so meaning someone really thought about the whole thing, and that someone wanted to bring it about, that means there was an intention behind it. So the intention or the will of the cause is the major or prime factor that everything comes about. Everything else follows the intention. So the purpose of the universe is the experience of persons, and these persons are conscious I subjects. Yeah. And according to this statement from the Sanskrit, what we made before, so if the effect is a person, then its cause is also... if the effect is a person, then it's also the cause. I hope this is nice English, but I think you know what I mean. So, and how can a person create? So let's take now... It's logical, we can accept it, that a person is behind everything. Of course, this is a different kind of person. It's a very powerful person, all that. So which factors does this person need with abilities that it can actually create? And we find this also hinted or explained in the Vedic scriptures. And there are three main aspects. The first is called Kriya. And Kriya means activity and power. So this entity must have a certain power to do that. And this power will bring about the manifestation. We can see this also, or we can understand this as energy. If the person has the energy, then the energy can manifest itself. We know from Einstein also, E is mc squared, so it means everything is energy. The mass is actually energy, condensed energy, or manipulated or differently arranged energy. So this Kriya makes sure that it works, so that the creation, that a creation can happen. There's a certain energy, a certain manifestation, and this entity must be capable of doing that. But this is not enough, of course, because this entity must have knowledge, and this is called jnana. Jnana means knowledge, so to know how to apply this energy, how to manifest, what is the plan behind everything. Right? Only energy, which is floating around or it's not doing anything, right? It's just there, is not enough. The energy has to be directed in a certain way. And jnana, knowledge or information, makes sure that there's a certain way how the energy is applied and how manifestation looks like, how it looks then. So the jnana makes sure how it works, or make sure that this is how it works, is the outcome. But this is also not enough, because it's not just an information or a directed energy which is the cause for a creation. There must be an intention. This is called icha. Icha means the cause or will, and this makes sure why it works. This is the cause why it works. Jnana is the aspect how it works. Kriya is that it works, but the actual cause for everything is this icha, the intention. If there's not an intention, then the jnana would not be directed towards the energy. The information would not work towards the manifestation. So icha, jnana and kriya are these three aspects which are necessary for a creation. There must be an intention why to do it, there must be a knowledge how to do it, and the actual possibility, action, that it's possible to really do it. And this is kriya, the capabilities or the activity, the power. So icha is the intention, jnana is the knowledge, and kriya is the power. And here we have this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a wonderful text written originally in Bengali, and that's it. Icha jnana kriya vina na hayasrijana. So this means icha jnana kriya, these three are necessary, and without that, vina means without that, srijana, there is no creation. So an entity must have these three aspects in order that something happens. And as I said before, if it's void and nothingness or abstract or impersonal, these don't have these aspects, especially not icha. That's why I see in icha the prime cause for everything, and icha, will, is only manifest from a person. Only a person has an will, this reason why things happen. When science explains about the world, the activity of the world, and they sometimes say how things happen, but actually they don't answer the question how does things happen. Why things happen. They don't explain the answer. Don't answer the question why things happen. They only explain how things happen, and this is the knowledge part, the information. But why things happen, why there is anything at all, they cannot say. They can only say how it is, how there's movement and all that. So the first cause of every chain of causality is this icha, and of course this is coming only from a person. No other entity can have a will. A will is inseparably connected with person. So when we understand now that this world, this universe, is only possible through this icha, jnana, kriya, then of course it directs towards a person. Only a person can cause the world. And this is also intentional. It might be a little bit difficult to understand because we cannot see what kind of person is that. because we speculate from our personality towards this personality. So, but we are only fragmental persons in one sense. We're a limited person, but there's also an unlimited person. So what kind of person could cause the material world? And in Vedas we read that this is a non-material person, a person which has no material limitations. So person itself is not material. We just see there's material person, there's non-material person. Person does not necessarily mean limitation and all that. It's just a material version of person. So we speak here about an absolute person. We can understand there can be an absolute person, and person which has no limitation, which is defining everything. Everything rests and depends on this person. It's the cause of everything. And will is the dominating factor. So what is a spiritual or non-material person then? An absolute person, at first it is eternal, it has eternality, this is called Sat. Then it's conscious, unlimited consciousness, unlimited knowledge, Chit, and Ananda is full of bliss. This is the standard definition of the spiritual entity, Sat Chit Ananda. These aspects must be in such an entity to make it spiritual. Whatever is spiritual is Sat Chit Ananda. So then we might ask, what is then the intention of this person? Why does this person create anything at all? Why that all? This whole arrangement, this universe. Is it necessary? What's the reason? So what is the content of the will? And there's a very short aphorism in the Upanishads. It's called Bahusyam. Bahusyam means because it willed to become many, or he willed to become many. So the whole creation, the whole world is an emanation and manifestation of the creating potency and will of the supreme entity. All is created out of this entity's pleasure, because this entity has the capabilities to create, and it creates out of its own happiness. It's a manifestation of its creating love for creation, and either we believe the world is like this or more like this, flat or round, whatever. The earth is an amazing thing, and not just the earth. It's in the macrocosm, like in the universe, on the earth, on the planetary scale, but also in the microcosm, either in the cells, as we saw. Everything is amazing and directed and intelligently applied, and to understand how this can come about by accident is very difficult to understand. And intelligence and willing intelligence behind everything is much more plausible and logic, because everything is so exact and moving and working. So we wonder, what is that person? Not what this person is. We spoke about what that person is. What kind of person can it be? Now we want to understand, who is that person? Where do we get this information from to understand who that person is? And of course, this is a part of revelation. We can never understand by research who that person is. We can understand that it is a person, as we saw now in this little presentation. There might be good reasons to think a person created everything. But who that person is, this is for us not to understand, only if the person reveals himself. And there are different religions, and they have different presentations of that person. But I, as a Vedic follower, present now what the Vedas say is that person. And it said this person is in every atom, moving and directing the whole creation. So the laws of nature, it said in the atom there are certain laws of nature which make everything work. And this person, it said, is inside this atom. It's called Paramatma. Yeah? In the Paramanu, in the smallest of the small, situated is this supreme entity. And in the Vedic scriptures explained, he is in every atom and is the original person. So the supreme person from whom everything emanates is also going in his own creation, is pervading his own creation, and is situated in every atom and also in the heart of all living entities. He is the smallest of the small, is in every heart and every atom. So Vedic scripture explained this Paramatma, this super soul, with its wonderful, lovely appearance, is in the heart of every living entity, of every living being. So he is in the microcosm, but also in the macrocosm. The whole universe with all its stars comes from this supreme, huge entity called Mahavishnu, of whom all the universes expand and emanate. So here in this picture we see that there are many universes. So we believe also in the multiverses. Nowadays this multiverse theory is very famous, that there are many universes. And on that point we agree, and we understand the singularity came from this Mahavishnu. So the cause of the singularity, of the expansion of the universe and the creation of the universe, is not an impersonal field like a quantum field. It's actually a person, and it's called Vishnu, Mahavishnu, of whom or who comes or is the supreme entity here in the background, who is Krsna himself. So the difference between this multiverse theory and the modern one is that in the modern one they say there are unlimited universes, and by accident one happened to be so defined that life and existence is possible. But we say all of these universes come from this huge Vishnu, Mahavishnu, and all of them are capable of life, because what would be the use that he creates so many and only one has life, or a couple of them? No, they're all fields for activities for the living entities. So in Bhagavad Gita, here Krishna says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. So in the Vedic scriptures we have this direct revelation of this supreme entity who is the master of the world, who is in the smallest, in the microcosm, and also in the macrocosm. He's responsible for the activities in the smallest of the small, in the atom and in the cells, and this is all his plan. But he is also responsible for the movements of the stars and of the manifestation of the universe. And by his capability of power and knowledge and his intention, everything can come about. So in the end I want to give, and this is of course then our purely revelationary part of the scriptures, of the Vedic scriptures. This is something we accept as a possibility and what we strive for to reach in the end, because the material world, many religions see God as the creator. This is like his prime identity. But in the Vedas we see actually the creation is not his prime interest. This is actually a secondary interest. So here in this last part I speak about the original world and the inner interest. Because this world we live in is only an reflection of the original world. So Krishna creates this world only at first as an replica of his original world. So this world is the material version of world. It's a material world, but there's also a spiritual world. And the spiritual world is his original world. And so there lies also his original interest. His original prime interest lies not with the material world. The material world is there for the material living entities, for those souls who have an interest in this material activity. So it's a playground for them. But he has his original world with his original spiritual entities, and we have the chance, we can also switch, from the material to the original spiritual world. This potential we have, and this lies in our power. We have to decide where we want to be. So this last part is a revelation, or shows us what's going on in his reality. So the original reality, as I said, is very similar to ours, but there the substance is spiritual, and Krishna, the supreme person, this is an playful, wonderful, loving youth, and there he has unlimited abilities or possibilities for loving exchange with all his friends and living beings. All the beings, they're also purely spiritual, and they have a pure consciousness, and the pure consciousness is full of love towards Krishna, and Krishna gives this love back. So every one of us can enter this reality and have a spiritual body, and in which we can have loving exchange with this original, pure, spiritual, wonderful person. And he has unlimited kinds of play partners, friends. They are all purely spiritual manifestations of his divine love, with whom he plays and has fun and jokes and all that. So the Supreme is not an old guy and grumpy or serious or this and that. No, actually it's said he is an playful boy. This is what's said in the Bhagavad school of Vedic tradition. And he has all kinds of loving exchanges and loving leelas, meaning pastimes. And it's said the supreme manifestation of his loving power interest is Srimati Radha Rani, his internal loving pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti. And so the whole worlds, all the worlds are in one sense emanations and manifestations of the original love between Radha and Krishna. They are all, so everything comes out of the loving creation, intention of creation. Because out of his love he creates all the varieties of existence and forms. They are all his loving emanations, so to say. So what is this love, or what's the principle of this love? It's called bhakti. Bhakti means loving devotion, and it's inherent in all spiritual, true living entities, so in all life in that sense, and is the way how to reconnect with Krishna, the Supreme Person, with the Supreme Entity. It's not by mechanical, material, philosophical means how to connect, but through this mystical, spiritual process of bhakti, because this is also the nature of Krishna, the Supreme Entity. And if we tune in his frequency, which is bhakti, then the connection is established and we can re-enter this reality. That sounds mystical. It is mystical, but has a very unmystical and practical application, which opens then the mystical part, reveals the mystical part. So what is this practical application? It's the chanting of a mantra. And there are many, many mantras in the Vedic scriptures, but the main and prime mantra for this day and age is this very famous Hare Krishna mantra. If we recite that, if we chant that, sing that, meditate that, just hear this sound vibration attentively, with loving devotion, call out towards Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then the connection will be established and we can enter the Krishna reality and leave this material world, which is very limiting for the living entity, the spiritual living entity, and go in this free and ecstatic spiritual reality. Thank you so much. This was my little presentation on the material world and what's all about, with some thoughts. These are more food for thought than a whole detailed presentation. I gave a couple of hints. All of you can research more into this direction. I hope it was interesting. If you have questions, leave a comment below. And thank you very much for your attention, listening, and I wish you all the best in your life, and especially in your spiritual life on your way to Krishna. And simply chant Hare Krishna.